Ready. Play.
Novak Djokovic was booed off court by some Australian Open fans after retiring injured from his semi-final against Alexander Zverev today. Djokovic, of course, was bidding to extend his record from 10 to 11 Australian Open titles and also, of course, bidding for a 25th Grand Slam title in total. Quit after losing the first set 7-6. And, of course, it was a very tight one with the previous 11 points, or the first 11 points of that tiebreak, all being held with serve until Djokovic put a volley into the net. But then stunned everyone watching, including myself, but also those in the stadium, when he held out his hand and said, that was it. The 37-year-old Serb, of course, had his left leg heavily strapped after injuring it in Tuesday's quarterfinal win over Carlos Alcaraz. That was a 4-set match. Afterwards, Djokovic had some comments for the media on his immediate future, his long-term future, also what had happened today, and his support for Zverev in the upcoming Australian Open final, which will be contested between the German and the winner of the Jannik Sinner-Ben Shelton match. Let's go and have a look at some of the social media responses to today's loss that he had to incur. I mean, there was obviously this one here from Gil Gross, who was just simply stunned by what he had seen. I think many were surprised after a crazy 82 minutes, as Jose Morgado describes it there. Just left everyone in amazement. But yes, continuing some of the reactions, I saw John Millman on Twitter as well, was very critical of the fans who were booing in the stadium, and also Brad Gilbert, some similar words from him saying that he was shocked. Of course, he was at both what occurred, but also disappointment in the booing of Djokovic. And Zverev also had some nice words saying, look, you don't boo a guy like Djokovic, who's done everything he possibly can for this sport and won the title down under with serious injuries in the past, including ab issues and thigh problems. And Brad Gilbert there complimenting Zverev for speaking up. Absolutely 100% no reason for the booing to have happened. So there's Novak Djokovic is somebody that has given this sport over the past 20 years absolutely everything of his life, Zverev said in that on-court interview with Jim Courier and the Australian Open Twitter account. They're saying ultimate respect from one competitor to another on those words. Hamad Medjedovic, the young player, of course, the protege almost of Novak's there, extending his warmest concerns and heart, as you can see, for Djokovic, and obviously hoping for a speedy recovery. Djokovic also said he will be in his post-match press conference, that he'll be supporting Zverev in the final. So whether that'll be against Shelton or Sinner, he will have the support of Novak Djokovic. Some more, of course, comments as well coming from Djokovic himself in his post-match press conference. Confirms it's a muscle tear and much more painful than it was 2 years ago. Hence, he was able to plow on 2 years ago all the way to the title. But this year, it wasn't going to be. Says he would have tried to play probably one more set if he'd won that first set. That's probably the first question, or for one of the first questions that many of us had. Doesn't confirm, though, whether he will be back at the Australian Open in 2025. Depends on this season, and I guess results and performances, and see how he matches up against some of the best, which, by the way, Gil Gross did say, listen, there's a lot of positives to take from this Grand Slam, and his level is there still just about to hang with the best of the game. So that may well give him enough motivation to continue into 2026, but for now, it remains a question mark. Some excerpts as well from Djokovic's press conference. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of that too. Did everything possible, he said, to play, basically continue as well, manage the muscle tear that he had. Medications and the strap. Physio worked, helped to some extent as well. But yeah, towards the end of that first set, I just started to feel more and more pain. was too much to handle for me at the moment. And yeah, unfortunate ending, but I did try. And there's the reminder of Gil Gross's comments on the Djokovic level, looking intensely motivated and moved better than he'd seen at any point in 2024, beating Alcaraz, of course, in that 4-set quarterfinal. The level is still there. Just got to hope that the injuries stay away and relatively infrequent. On the partnership with Andy Murray, still up in the air. It was always going to be a beginning, if you like, in terms of perhaps starting at the Australian Open and continuing, but to be decided, let's say. Honestly, my gut feeling on the Andy Murray partnership is it might just be a short-term temporary thing, but we'll see. When we next see Djokovic on a tennis court is still not yet sure, but we'll get into that as well in a second, just while we continue to share some of the tweets and comments from Djokovic himself, but also elsewhere. On the Twitter sphere, let's say. Yeah, confirms it's a muscle tear. 2 years ago, he managed it much better on the court. Didn't bother me as much, he said. This time it wasn't the case. There is a chance, he confirmed, that this will be his last Australian Open. Do let me know in the comments below whether you think we'll see Novak Djokovic back in Australia next year. Vivek Jacob, of course, someone who's been on the show a few times, said Djokovic says the pain was just too much to manage. Says even if he won that tiebreak, he wasn't sure how much longer he would go on. Says he has positive feedback for Andy Murray as coach, but the status is still not known as to whether it will continue. Doha will be the next tournament on his schedule, but he's not sure if he can play at this moment in time. But some good news is that he does intend to fight for more Grand Slams. Do let me know in the comments below. Do you think Novak Djokovic can win more Grand Slams? Let me know in the comments. And yeah, don't forget to like, of course, and subscribe as we delve back in as well to some more of the comments, particularly getting into the nitty-gritty of the post-match press conference that he gave very soon after. Pretty much came off court and went straight to press. Gave the crowd a wave, of course, and got those boos, then gave them the thumbs up. I think he was obviously being a bit sarcastic and understandably frustrated at their reaction. Tough day today, he said, or was asked in press conference, tough day today. Was there any chance that if you won the first set, you'd have continued? Yeah, it could be. If I won the first set, maybe I would try. I don't know. A few more games, half a set, maybe a set. I don't know. It was just getting worse and worse. I said in commentary that not being aware of the fact that he was going to retire, but I did think that that first set was going to be crucial for Novak to help get him over the line, either in straight sets or even 4. But if you win that first set, then you've got enough energy to keep going. But it was over 1 hour and 20 minutes, that first set. A lot of slices off the racket of Novak Djokovic, and some of those rallies were pretty extended, but that was also a lot down to Alexander Zverev, just playing the long game, if you like, perhaps wanting to wear down his opponent. And that is ultimately what happened. Djokovic said, I knew even if I won the first set that it's going to be a huge uphill battle for me to stay physically fit enough to stay with him in the rallies for another, who knows, 2, 3, or even 4 hours. And yeah, a lot of people comparing that first set to the Nadal-Zverev first set 2.5 years ago, also a semi-final, which was extremely extended and very stodgy and very difficult to hit through the opponent in the searing heat of Melbourne. That was similar today, albeit obviously on a hard court rather than clay. But Djokovic concluded or said there, I don't think I had that ability to keep going for all those hours, unfortunately. He didn't have enough in the tank. Again, he was asked, you've been such a great champion here in Melbourne. You had your family here this year. Is there a chance that this might be your last Australian Open? I don't know. There is a chance. Who knows? I'll just have to see how the season goes. I want to keep going, but whether I'm going to have a revised schedule or not for the next year, I'm not sure. I normally like to come to Australia to play. I've had the biggest success in my career here. So if I'm fit, healthy, motivated, I don't see a reason why I wouldn't come. But there's always a chance, yes. We've become used to these miraculous physical recoveries. And Djokovic was asked, how much of a worry is it for you that here and at the French, that wasn't quite possible? I mean, how much of a worry is it? I don't know, he said. It's not like I'm worrying approaching every Grand Slam now, whether I'm going to get injured or not, but statistics are against me in a way in the last couple of years. Yes, he retired, of course, or withdrew from the French Open after a couple of epic five-setters last year as he was going deeper in that tournament due to a knee issue. He did come back and play Wimbledon and got to the final there and then continued through with a memorable run to Olympic gold in Paris. Anyway, he continued in his press conference. So it is true that getting injured quite a bit the last few years. I don't know what exactly is the reason for that. Maybe several different factors, but I'll keep going. I'll keep striving to win more slams. And as long as I feel that I want to put up with all of this, I'll be around, he said. We don't know for how much longer he'll be around. Don't know. Let's see. As I said, John Millman, the Australian tennis player who recently retired, did take to Twitter to criticize the Melbourne crowd for booing Novak Djokovic. Djokovic, by the way, in that press conference, did say that he'll be cheering for Alexander Zverev, primarily because it'll be a chance to win his first Grand Slam. Ben Shelton, who Djokovic, of course, has some background with after there was the whole telephone putting down issue in New York. But he does hope that Zverev does get over the line in that final, which will come up on Sunday. Of course, you'll be able to see that as well, or at least get commentary for that on Talking Tennis. Just concluding here, some of the comments that he made post-match as well in his press conference. Confirms it was a muscle tear, and even if he'd won that first set, not sure that he would have continued. Yeah, another interesting point is that since that Alcaraz match, he said he didn't hit a ball since in practice. I think both practices were cancelled. A lot of concern about that on social media, but others were suggesting he just needed to rest. Well, it ended up being a lot more than that. That injury that he incurred towards the end of the first set against Carlos, that he managed to battle through, maybe through with adrenaline, who knows, and end up prevailing. But today it wasn't to be. He said, I didn't hit a ball since the Alcaraz match until about an hour before today's semi-final against Alexander Zverev. He said he tried everything, the medications, the strap, the physio work. But yeah, not hit a ball since that Alcaraz encounter was always going to be an uphill task, especially having lost that first set. And yeah, going to be cheering for Zverev come Sunday. Great to be joined by Vanch once again. I want to just get your quick take on what we've just seen basically happen, where Novak Djokovic ended up retiring hurt. It was a muscle injury that he incurred in the match with Alcaraz, and Zverev proceeds to the final. But what's your immediate or fairly immediate reaction to what we've just seen, Vanch?
Yeah, I mean, I had watching that first set, I could see that something was wrong with Djokovic. He wasn't moving as well as he was during the set in the tiebreak for sure. But I still thought he would continue. So I was surprised personally when he shook hands immediately after he missed that volley. Wonder what would have happened had he won that first set. But I mean, we were hearing reports that the last couple of days he hasn't been practicing. He hasn't hit. So, and obviously we know he tweaked it in the first set against Alcaraz. And yeah, so I mean, it's unfortunate because that's now, two of the last four majors really that he's suffered some kind of a niggling injury midway through the tournament. And as he gets older, 37, 38 this year, it's going to be, tougher for him to kind of physically sustain that wear and tear that he's putting his body through. But nonetheless, the level of tennis was still pretty high. I mean, 80 minutes, pretty physical, grueling rallies from the back of the court. So, like, we know the tennis level is there for him to contend for number 25, but the question is just, these injuries, are they going to catch up to him where, yeah, he can't do it anymore?
I'm now going to hand you over to the video of live when it occurred. So This is not the end of the video. Do stay tuned. Do hit that like button and do subscribe. But let's now go over to the live reaction as it happened in real time, to the amazement of both myself, those in the stadium, those watching around the world, and those in the live chat tuning in to Talking Tennis as we spoke through the encounter between Zverev and Djokovic. Okay, Djokovic will serve here 5-6. Be keen to get a first serve in. Gets it. We're into the rally though. Backhand to backhand right now. Djokovic goes big on that backhand. Comes in to put the volley away, but puts it into the net. And finally, we have a break of serve in this tie break, and it's decisive. And it's Alexander Zverev who takes the first set after 1 hour. What's going on? What's happening? Djokovic is retiring. Djokovic is retiring. Djokovic is retiring. Wow, in the most dramatic moment in that set. And Alexander Zverev is into his first Australian Open final. Wow. Djokovic said that if he'd lost the second set, he was going to retire. There's quite a few boos in the crowd, I think. Sticking his thumbs up to those that are booing him. Wow. I mean, there was no obvious issue with the movement. By the way, some people might not be devastated to see that end that way. Wow. Wow. I don't know what to say. Just wow. I just think that he'd run out of gas and he had to win that first set. But I didn't expect the retirement. It'd be interesting to hear what Alexander Zverev has to say. Jim Courier here going to interview him on court.
This is not the way this match was supposed to end. I just want to get your thoughts on it, Novak, before we start talking a little bit about you. Well, the very first thing I want to say is, please, guys, don't boo a player when he goes out with injury. Yes. I know that everybody paid for tickets and everybody wants to see hopefully a great 5-set match and everything, but you got to understand, Novak Djokovic is somebody that has given this sport for the past 20 years absolutely everything of his life. He has won this tournament with an abdominal tear. He has won this tournament with a hamstring tear. If he cannot continue a tennis match, it really means that he cannot continue a tennis match. So please be respectful and really show some love for Novak as well.
Das ist sehr groß. Er hat das Ding auch gewonnen. Ist schon mit Verletzungen.
Within the match, did you have an idea that he was struggling to the point that he might not finish it? No, I actually thought it was quite a high level first set. Of course, you know, there's some difficulties, and the longer you continue playing, then maybe the worse it gets, and the tiebreaker was maybe not moving.
Kann schon sein, dass er dann ein bisschen mehr spürte, die Schmerzen.
But I thought we had extremely long rallies, extremely difficult physical also rallies. In the tiebreak, I did see him struggle maybe a bit more. But still, look, of course, I'm happy on one side to be in the final of Australian Open. I'm in the final of Grand Slam.
I hope you can hear this all right.
On the other hand, I'm being 100% honest. There's no guy on the tour that I respect more than Novak. He's been one of my closest friends on tour. Whenever I struggled, I could always text him, I could always call him, I could always ask him for advice. I was speaking to him for hours last year in Shanghai when I was really struggling mentally a little bit after the US Open defeat in the quarterfinals. And he's always somebody that helped a lot. And, I wanted it to be a top 5-set match as well. But, it is how it is. He's won this tournament 10 times. And, again, I have nothing but respect for him.
Das ist wirklich so.
Let's turn our attention to you. So when you approach a match like this, when you know you might have an opponent who might have a problem, what's your mindset coming after? Does it change? If you approach a match where you come out, I'm going to play my way no matter what.
Well, not against Novak, to be honest. I played him here in 2021 when he had an abdominal tear, and he served 28 aces against me. So, I have to play 100%. I played probably one of my best sets of the tournament. Now, the first set, and I won 7-5 in a tiebreak while he was injured. So,
But you won.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe I'm not that good. Maybe Novak is too good for the sport. I don't know.
You're number 2 in the world. They don't give that to you. You've earned it, and it's been really fascinating and fun. So many players have brought in outside coaches, super coaches, and you've tried a few. For the last few years, it's been all about family. Your dad, your brother, and we've watched the changes that you've made to your game, especially your serve, has become something that I didn't think was possible. You make 70% first years in play, you average over 200K. I'm telling you, it happens every day. I'm not going to jinx you. I promise. I want to understand the change, how you made the changes, because we noticed your ball toss in the last couple of years has gotten much lower. It doesn't go up this high. How did that change come about? Because he absolutely worked amazingly well.
So we're talking about technique now?
Technical change, yes.
Well, technique, the number one thing that I changed, it was actually with my brother more than anyone else, because my brother was never a massive server, so he's never a very big server, but he was extremely well in his spots, and he was with his slides, with topspin and all that. And actually what was happening is I was tossing my ball so high up that I was waiting in that position for so long. So I couldn't accelerate anymore after the ball was ready to go. So the number one thing that we changed over the past, I think, 4 or 5 years is lowering the toss. So it's a fluid motion. So I actually hit the tennis ball at the highest spot that I can and not waiting for it to go down. And then I kind of have to wait for the ball, and my serve speed on second serve especially went up quite a bit over the last 2 years. And if I'm going to serve on the 70% in the final, I'm going to blame you for that.
It won't happen. You were 69% in your last match. Terrible. That was awful, right?
That was terrible. That was a terrible serving. I only served 4 aces as well. So
you're in a final here for the first time in Australia, for the third time in your career in majors. That's awesome. Against Ben Shelton, the American, or Yannick Sinner, the Italian. So let's just preview that match and tell me what you're expecting in their matchups. I know Sasha, you played both of them.
Just seeing Ben Shelton backstage.
What's going to happen? Ben is going to serve 240 kilometers an hour, and Yannick is going to return that serve like it's coming out to butterflies. So there's a continuity to happen, but no, I mean, they're both great players. Everybody who's in the semi-final absolutely deserves to be there. There's no easy draws. So yeah, I have tremendous respect for both of those guys, and I think it's going to be an entertaining match. Hopefully some of you guys will stick to the night because it's going to be fun.
And as it is for that final,
auf jeden
What
Fall
have you
gehen.
taken from your experiences in the first two that can help you in this
Was
one?
kann dir helfen von den
It would
ersten
be
beiden
nice to win one more set than the first two that I
Ich
played.
würde gerne einen Satz mehr gewinnen.
But yeah, I mean, look, Grand Slam finals are always difficult. The two best players in the world are playing on that court. You know, I lost twice in a fifth set, once in a fifth set tiebreaker at the US Open. So I've had my tough losses. I feel like maybe it's time for me to have some luck in the Grand Slam
Aber ich kann
finals.
noch ein bisschen Glück haben im Finale.
Yeah,
Ja, das macht wirklich langes Interview. Und ja, also ich gehe jetzt schnell rüber, wir wollen jetzt gleich nicht mehr weitermachen und da erwarten wir auch den
Wow. So there we go. Alexander Zverev into his first Australian Open final, signs the camera and heads off court. A 1 hour and 20-minute set. And yeah, ending the match because Djokovic puts his volley into the net. I wonder if he'd won that set. I'm presuming he wouldn't have retired. I'm presuming he wouldn't have retired and therefore at least tried to see if he could hang in there. This is only Novak Djokovic's second loss via retirement at the Australian Open after conceding to Andy Roddick in the 2009 quarterfinal. Yeah. Whether it was sickness, we saw him taking tablets at one point midway through that set. Yeah, such a bummer, says Brad Gilmer on Twitter. So Zverev is into the final and will play the winner of Jannik Sinner and Ben Shelton. There's not much more to say until we get some news exactly on what caused that retirement. But for the second year in a row, Novak Djokovic falls at the semi-final stage. Thank you, Jane, as well. Yes, the graveyard 4:30 a.m. shift was mine, but exciting times to follow for the other guys. That'll be bringing you Jannik Sinner against Ben Shelton. That'll be up shortly. In the meantime, do make sure you hit that like button. Do subscribe to the channel if you're new. I might just stay live for a couple more minutes as we just trawl social media to see if we get any more words and explanation on what happened to Novak, or even just some more takes on what happened. Yeah, so whether it was the yeah, remember those break points that Djokovic had and those lofted balls that he was giving Zverev to smash, which ultimately got it done on the third one. But he was defending well. But the slice from Novak, was that a wise tactic? I don't know. I don't know. It's certainly going to lengthen the rallies, and I don't think Novak wants to do that. But does Novak have that game to go aggressive and go big? Yeah, perhaps the leg as well is an issue. Practice was hampered too by that leg injury. And yeah, Alexander Zverev into his, I think it's his third Grand Slam final. He obviously had he had the US Open final of 2020, which he lost in 5 sets to Dominic Thiem, and had the French Open final of 2024, which he also lost in 5 sets, that time to Carlos Alcaraz. And yes, some pretty disappointed faces there in the crowd as Djokovic calls it a day at 1 hour and 21 minutes. Zverev not quite sure how to respond. Andy Murray exits his seat, and I'm sure is quick and keen to speak to his charge. Djokovic then waved to the crowd, at which point he started to get some boos, turned around, stuck his thumbs up, and nodded his head. Yeah. So yeah, one more glance. So we have a little glance more at social media to see if there's anything else to add before we bring this stream to an end. Some praise here from Jose Morgado for the on-court interview for Jim Courier. I know some people this week, Ben Shelton, I think, highlighted some of the on-court interviews that have occurred, but I don't think they've been aimed at Jim Courier, who's probably one of the best in the business. I think we're seeing live pictures backstage of Sinner practicing some backhands. Yeah, was that a tactic that was going to win the match today? Don't know. It certainly didn't win the match anyway, but yeah. Yeah, this is a fair point. Maybe adrenaline covering up things there. Respect to Zverev, says Ramage. Ramage, if you are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button just below. We will be bringing this to a close very, very shortly before we come back for the Shelton Sinner match in a little while. Jose Morgado saying very poor from the crowd. I think most people are probably in agreement with that. Medically retired, says ESPN. Yeah, it might. I think it might well be the leg more than the physical side of things. Seeing Ben Shelton warming up as well in the player gym. Well, a shocking and surprising end to this match that seemed to be on a knife edge for so long. But it does end in retirement and education. Thank you for joining us. Please do hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe if you're new. Yeah, surprising end, disappointing end, particularly for those in the crowd who did air their frustration, or some of them aired their frustration towards Novak. But it did come as a surprise. You know, both players looking pretty good for those 12 games in terms of movement. Djokovic, yes, did look a bit out of breath. Yes, he did take some tablets. Yes, he did have a heavily strapped hamstring, but probably until that final point when he puts that volley into the net and we're kind of surprised. And I did posit that probably winning that first set for Zverev might be enough, because if the match was going to be won probably by Novak, he might well have been keen to do it in straight sets. Manasvi, I hope I'm saying your name right. Hopefully Novak recovers fast. But as Ghosty says, is that the last time we will see Novak Djokovic at the Australian Open? Maybe. Well, anyway, for those of you tuning in, some of you maybe for the first time, welcome. Where have you been for the last 2.5 years? Well, we've been here, but we'll also be back again in a very short period of time to bring you the second men's semi-final between Ben Shelton and Jannik Sinner. In the meantime, thanks for joining, and you know the drill. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis. Bye.